My head. Especially here. Wait, actually. Yeah. No, it's seriously. What I try to say is when I
Yeah, 3 more minutes.
I know.
They just gotta try to say that. Assume we're gonna get it.
Oh, yeah. A lot of times when I come in, I start walking, I kind of watch and yeah. Yeah, right.
It's, yeah. Good. It's hour too. Yeah, it's 10. Yeah, you're ready. Let's get this thing started.
Alright. I like to start my presentation and talk to teacher. Hello. May I have your attention, please? Hello, back there.
Okay.
Before I share with everyone about my Cairo Egypt trip, I want to say it was fun and an educational one. One comment, I'm thankful for Kyle and May for praying for me before I left to go to Egypt. That is something that I will never forget and coming straight from my heart. On December 15th, I was on my way to Cairo, Egypt. I didn't get any sleep at all. But on December 16th, we were on our way to Port Said. And I couldn't take the picture in front of the sign Port Said because if I did that, we would get a ticket of $500. So me and Joyce just took it on the side of Port Said. We went to the Met. Right. We went to the Metro Sea about 2 or 3 times. It was a short walk. That night we played Dutch Blitz cards. I won 4 times, and I kind of beat Joyce and Rob at those playing cards. I won more than 4 times on the trip. On December 18th, we met up with Lydia's friend, biggest friend. It was a fun day. Lydia showed us around town. Also, we had specialty ice cream and coconut juice with lemon. That was my dessert for my dinner for that day. I was starving that night. But I survived. On December 20th, it was church time. I was assistant minister and a lector. I was surprised that Becca asked me to help her with that Friday, excuse me, because we had Friday service, because it was different from here back home. We always have service on Sundays, but back in Egypt, we had it on Fridays. In the late afternoon, we met up with Emily, another friend of Becca's, for early dinner. We sat at the outskirts of the pyramids. And here's the outskirts of the pyramids. Hotel rooftop down there. On December 22nd, Joyce and I went to the Egyptian Museum. It was a huge one. Yeah. We went to the Long Prairie Cafe for dinner. It was delicious. I had never had decaf espresso with steamed milk with honey. No worries. I was able to sleep. On December 23rd, Beck and I took a ride share to Cairo, Egypt. We met up with Ahmed and later Emily. Ahmed was a tour guide. We went to see the pyramids, which I have a few in here. This slideshow. To see the pharaohs, the mummies, tomb for ancient history to it. This is how on the right side of me, this was a very small enter and exit. As you see, you have to be real small and small body to enter in and out of the tomb. I had a hard time.
I had a harder time.
Yeah, I think everybody did, Pastor Lyle. And on the other side, the left side of me was the tomb, the mummy's tomb. It wasn't scary. Thank goodness. I didn't want to see no real stuff come out. And this is the Ahmed, the tour guide, and this was outside the pyramid, one of the pyramids. It was very fascinating. And I remember Emily, we were in one of the tombs and we had all the stairs to climb up and down. And they were small, medium, large. I told Emily, I said, forget it. I don't want to go to this thing. And I was out of shape. And so it was fun. And also she told me it's a lifetime. So don't stop now. We're here. You might as well go up and have some fun and get your exercise for that day. Believe me, I did. I was so sore that day and afterwards. And then December 27th, 11 p.m., we were on the way to Siwa on the bus. Believe me, it was so uncomfortable. We had a lot of people, and we were scared that our luggage was gonna blow away. But somehow they got our luggage close together and tightened it up the strong ropes. On December 29th, we went to Shirley Fortress. It was impressive to see the homes that were made, and Becca talked to real donkeys. And I did not take a picture of the real donkeys because I figured there was no need to. So this is one of the homes on my left side that you really can't see. So it's how they were made. And this on the right side was Beck and Rob. We went after we had our self-tour. We went to grab something to drink and figure out what we want to do the rest of the trip. So afterwards, the waiter gave us free chocolate strawberries and dates to eat. You know, usually I don't eat dates. I don't like dates. But I survived it. On December 30th, we went on a safari. It was fun. You will see a slideshow at the end of this presentation and another one too. We did the sandboarding. It was fabulous. I raced with Rob the second time. I went twice. For a snack, it was a healthy one. Also, we saw the beautiful sunset. I tell you, it was so beautiful. You couldn't keep your eyes off it. On December 31st, we went to Saltwater Pond. It was freezing cold. Be honest with you,
Yes.
I did not want to go into the pond, but it's like, oh, it's not gonna hurt. Oh, we floated in the pond for 10 minutes and then we went sightseeing. I was happy. Yeah, out of the pond. I was freezing cold afterwards. And while we went sightseeing, they had to put a towel around me. And of course, I had my clothes on. I was so cold and, you know, it's a different body temperature of mine. So that was real, it was uncomfortable for a while, but I got warmed up. On New Year's Day in the morning, we were on the way to Cairo, Egypt. We took private transportation because the day before we left, I told Beck and Rob, and I told someone else, I don't want to take public transportation because it was so uncomfortable that it was better to take the private transportation. You have room space, even though we had 2 drivers, but it was okay. I paid for the expenses. It wasn't that bad. January 3rd, I was on my way home to San Francisco. Yeah, I had 2 layovers. It wasn't fun, but I survived it. It took 29 hours to get home. Before my, excuse me, my last comment is, I am fortunate to be living in the United States because in Cairo, Egypt, it was a well educational trip for me. And I'm just thankful that I have my church family, friends, family, work, all these years. And I want to say thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. And Peter will show you the slideshow now.
Goodbye. But you, O Bethlehem, everything, who are one of the little clans of Judea, from you shall come forth for me. One who is to rule in Israel, whose origin is from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has brought forth. And the rest of his kingdom shall return to the people of Israel. And he shall stand to feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall live secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be one of peace. If the Assyrians come to our land, dread upon our soul, we will raise against them broken shoulders and rulers. God's word for God's people. Thanks be to God. A reading from the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verses 5 through 10. Consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, but a body you have prepared before me. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. Then I said, see, I have come to do your will, God. And a scroll of the book is written of me. When he said above, you have neither desired nor taken pleasure in sacrifices and offerings and burnt offerings and sin offerings. These are offered according to the law. Then he added, see, I have come to do your will. He abolishes the first in order to establish the second. And it is by God's will that we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. God's word for God's people. Thanks be to God.
There's one more. The other one was just a slide.
Oh, there's more. Okay.
There's,
That one?
no, I want the slide there, so.
Yeah, they over there, okay. Give me.
Next. And then. Why just do it here?
Just point down.
All right, so I'm Lyle Beckman, and I went to Cairo in November, last November, with my friend Jim Freeling. We were there about 2 weeks, and I also was asked to help at worship on Friday. In Egypt, the Christian churches worship on Friday because it's a primarily Muslim country, and Friday is a holy day for them. And so everyone worships on Friday, and then Saturday is a day off. No, Friday is, Saturday is the day off, and then Sunday they start their work week. So I preached on a Friday, but I want to tell you a little bit about the things I saw in Egypt, but also a little bit more about St. Andrews. So Ahmed, who was our tour guide for much of the time that we saw historic things the first week, said that almost anyone living in the world today can trace their human ancestry back to Egypt, or at least to Africa, and that most every one of us then either came from Egypt or our ancestors passed through Egypt on their way to other parts of the world. And I was really taken by that. And I honestly felt so much of the time that I was somehow connected to my ancestors of generations and generations and generations ago. So we did a lot of the typical touristy things, the Sphinx, the pyramids, hundreds of camels around the pyramids, tombs everywhere. And it's wonderful to be able to hear the history of some of these tombs. They're still finding tombs in Egypt. They're still discovering great things, great pieces of art, a lot of history. The Nile River is a big piece of Cairo and Egypt. So it's a modern city with a river at sunset. When you get to Cairo, it is one of the most dirty, noisy, crowded, filthy cities I've ever been in. And I loved it like you wouldn't believe. So this is a stock photo. This isn't mine. It's a stock photo of traffic in Cairo. And you ask anybody who's been to Cairo, how did you enjoy crossing the street? And they will tell you horror stories of trying to inch your way across 8 lanes of traffic to get to the other side of the street. It's an African city. I was kind of expecting Cairo to be more Mediterranean, but it is the largest city in Africa, and it is an African city. People walk in the street, the shops that they have are not as Mediterranean as I imagined. There are neighborhoods in Cairo that aren't paved, the streets aren't paved. So if you try to get an Uber to take you there, they'll say, well, we'll take you only this far. And then maybe if you're lucky, you get a tuk-tuk. So I had my first tuk-tuk ride in Cairo. It's a beautiful city. Egypt is a beautiful country. In Cairo, only 10% of the population is Christian. So there are incredible mosques there that tell great stories. There are beautiful Christian churches, mostly Coptic. And so that's a whole interesting history itself of these early Christians, direct descendants of the first generation people who knew Jesus, and how they built this huge church. Greek Orthodox churches as well. And you know this story, don't you, from the Gospel of Matthew, when in a dream Joseph was told to leave Bethlehem and escape to Egypt because King Herod was about to kill all the infants in the area. Well, everywhere in the Christian churches, you'll see that story in mosaics and in other places. And in fact, there is a church built over the location that is believed to be the home of the Holy Family when they were in Cairo. And that's a picture of Pastor Becca Davis and her mother Joyce in the home, which is down quite a ways beneath a church. Because again, over the generations, a lot of things have been built over things. So we dug down and they found this, but that was a nice little place to visit. So anyway, so the first week is over. Now it's time to get to understand a little bit more about St. Andrew's United Church. It's a place where English-speaking people from around the world living in Cairo have gathered together to worship and to participate in a vibrant community of faith. The first service was 1899, so they're not that much younger than we are. And the building that they're in currently was built in 1909. And that's the building, when you go into their compound, you see the back, what seems like the back of the church. And then, like so many churches around the world, in order to get in, you use the side door or the back door. And that's a courtyard there behind St. Andrew's. And that is the sanctuary. It looks like just about any other church you can imagine, with a little organ, altar, baptismal font, stained glass. And that's an example of the worship space. It's a beautiful space, really. It has plaques everywhere telling you what stained glass is a gift from what family. And the history is that it was originally a mission of the Church of Scotland. But in 1979, the membership of the congregation had fallen to 5. So they entered into this serious time of discernment. And if you remember anything from my time with you as interim pastor, I hope you remember the 3 big questions that a congregation should always be asking themselves, right? So who are you? Who are your neighbors? But more than that, what do they need and what do they want? and then a time to figure out to what is God calling us. So the members of St. Andrews noticed large numbers of refugees coming into Cairo, many of them undocumented or unregistered, and they began to formulate plans for what would become St. Andrews Refugee Services. They sought funding from various sources, including their own Scottish Presbyterian Church, but they received very little from them. So with a growing number of people reaching out to them for support, they looked to the wider religious community, and Lutherans in Europe and Canada and the United States came and responded to their request. So now St. Andrews left the Presbyterian, Scottish Presbyterian Church. They affiliated with the Lutheran Church. They are a congregation of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land. They think of themselves as an interdenominational church and congregation. Worship encompasses the fullness of Christian traditions. It means that they have Presbyterian, Lutheran, and Reformed features incorporated into the liturgy. But like so many places around the world, the greeting of peace is an incredibly lovely and wonderful moment. So you have people from all over the world greeting one another because we are together in the church as one, right? And they say this on their website: the experience of worship involves not just one's mind, but one's whole self. And I like it. Worship at St. Andrews continued through both world wars, serving the English-speaking military people stationed in Cairo. I'm guessing that during wartime, those were their peak years in terms of numbers and outreach programs. And aside from being a congregation that worships in English for the past 26 years, they've been home to 5 refugee-led congregations representing 5 ecumenical denominations. Well, 2 or 3 of them are actually Presbyterian, but the languages they use when you come from Sudan or South Sudan, there still is a tribal way of thinking there. So every tribe has its own language, indigenous language. So there are 6 congregations that share this space, and they also share ministry together. So the Friday morning that I preached, you had members of all the other congregations were there as well. And they do programs together, and they get involved in each other's life. I attended a couple of musical programs that were fundraisers for these other congregations. And it's just the kind of thing you would expect to happen here. It also happens in Cairo. But now a little bit more about STARS, if you don't mind. St. Andrews Refugee Services had humble beginnings, who were individuals who had been forcibly displaced to Egypt from countries in the Horn of Africa in 1976. At that time, many people arriving in Egypt were there to study under the auspices of the United Nations Refugee Agency. But outside of school, there was no place for them to really gather. So this was when STARS began, October 11th, 1979, on a Thursday evening in the St. Andrews Guildhall. It's like their version of our urban life center. It's a separate building with offices and a large area where they have coffee and meals after worship. In the early years, there was also a rudimentary effort in English language instruction. So the ministry has grown and changed throughout the years, and today it serves people from Ethiopia, Iraq, Sudan, South Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, Eritrea, and Syria. And we can add in there, there's quite a large number, but it isn't official, but there are a large number in Cairo who have come from Gaza. There are approximately 20 million refugees worldwide, displaced by war, natural disaster, persecution, and other catastrophes. They often flee to nearby countries for refuge, even if that country does not have the financial means to support them. So local organizations like STARS provide critical life-saving services to meet the needs of a lot of the refugees in Cairo. Egypt officially has 941,625 registered refugees and asylum seekers from 61 nationalities. In 2025, the Sudanese nationality is the largest, followed by Syrians. But in addition to the ones who are registered or documented, there are many more, probably up to 600,000 people who are yet to be documented. It's kind of like the here, we have documented and undocumented people, and sometimes they're in the process, and sometimes they're kept from continuing a process. But where are they going to go? Are they going to go back to their home where there is a civil war or where there's a famine? So they stay. So STARS works to enhance the quality of life for these refugees and vulnerable migrants. They have 4 broad program areas: education. So they have a school for children and teenagers who come to Cairo. They're unaccompanied minors, but they also have English classes and other classes for adults. A lot of psychosocial programs, because when you come from a country that has been at war, or when you've lost family members because of war or other difficulties, you have trauma. And so they provide a lot of support and counseling. They give them legal advice. They help them become documented if they can. And of course, they help to create a community for them. And they really do provide high quality services meeting their needs. And they provide a safe and inclusive space. So I can't tell you that enough how much I appreciate this program. We should know this, that they currently have a staff of over 600 individuals with an additional 200 people in training. And most of them are refugees themselves. So maybe you remember Becca Davis telling you this when she was here. Her salary and benefits are paid by the ELCA, our Global Mission Board. But the time that she spends at St. Andrews as pastor is only 10% of her time. 90% of her time is being chaplain to this staff of 600 people. And if you can imagine, a lot of these people on staff bring their own trauma, but they are also incredibly bright and faithful and decent people. And so many of them I met in that second week that I was there. This is a number that still I can't quite get in my head, but it's true. Last time I talked with Becca, she said that they serve up to 100,000 people each week. I mean, 100,000 people each week, right? And then one of the locations houses this program that supports the unaccompanied minors. So they provide education for them. They provide housing for them. They live in what would be considered like foster family settings or dormitory settings. All of their meals are taken care of, but you can also imagine that many of the unaccompanied children have had trauma of their own. And so a lot of the young girls have been sexually assaulted. And so they're having their own babies. So you have 12 and 13 and 14-year-old girls with an infant. So they also have this huge daycare center so that their mothers can be in school during the day. And it's just an amazing program. English is the official language of the program, but the other programs are offered in 13 different languages and dialects. So when you walk into the compound and you see the back of the church there, imagine every day when they're open, hundreds, thousands of people waiting in line under a shaded canopy to be helped. And there is on the side of the church a huge board that names the languages that they speak. And then you can go and point to your language. And then they'll find someone who speaks your language. Then that's how you get your assistance. Now, we know about some of the budget cuts, right, in the country. So the STARS budget has been reduced by 40% in the last 6 months, primarily due to the changes of US policy and freezing the funding that goes to Church World Service, which in turn helps STARS. Several people who are staff of STARS had visas in the works. I should go back a step. One Friday morning, the second Friday we were there, Becca Davis had Jim and I talk with 8 people who were on staff there, who all felt a call to ministry, to ordained ministry. 1 to the Episcopal Church, 2 to the Lutheran Church, 5 to the I think that makes 8, 4 or 5 to the Presbyterian Church. And we were beginning to work out a plan to get them to the United States. And there was one young man who had been accepted to the University of Nebraska in Chadron. And so he was all set to come here. He should have been here by June 1st. And we had a whole system set up for him so that he and his 2 children could be housed and start school there. But of course, he's a passport holder from South Sudan. And now no one from Sudan or South Sudan can come to the United States. So everything's changed. So he's no longer able to come. But there are a lot of people there who would do very well here. So this from the United Nations, Sudanese refugees in Egypt are facing a growing healthcare crisis after the UN Refugee Agency suspended most medical services due to severe funding shortfalls. Among the hardest hit are cancer patients and those with chronic illnesses now left without access to life-saving treatment. We could have the response like one of our US senators from Iowa who said, well, we all are going to die. Or we could be outraged that people who are sick don't have the care that they need in order to live a happy and as healthy as possible life. So cuts follow a drastic drop in donor contributions, including all these reductions from the United States. A couple of pictures from their website about STARS and the people they serve. St. Andrew's United Church of Cairo and St. Andrew's Refugee Services presently operate under the supervision of the Protestant churches of Egypt. And for more information about STARS, you can write this down, ask me later. You can either go to stars-egypt.org, and to support them financially, go to refugeesthrive.org, and you'll be able to make a donation. And the website says $50 provides 12 hours of this professional interpretation for clients in legal aid programs. And that's so important for them to be able to have access to the social services that might help them become documented. $100 provides lunch for 220 school children. Can you imagine? It only costs 50 cents or less to feed kids. But I've seen the lunch that they get, and it's decent and it's healthy. $500 provides 2 months of psychosocial support. So the people of STARS and St. Andrew say thank you. And I say thank you. So any questions for Pam or for me?
Could you show the websites again? I have the one, stars-egypt.org, right?
Right, so
But there was an email.
yeah, so stars-egypt.org for more information about STARS. Yep. Can you see that?
Info at stars.
Or you can, if you want to email them, info@stars-egypt.org. Yeah, John.
How is the situation in Gaza impacting STARS?
So there are people from Gaza who are finding their way into Egypt. I don't think it's all that public because officially Egypt won't take refugees from Gaza. But they're finding their way there, and they are finding their way to STARS. So they're being treated like all the other refugees, trying to figure out a way to get them connected to the system, document them, and provide social services for them. So but I'm sure it's a growing area where more and more people will be coming. Kind of like Syria, too, after their civil war. Yeah.
So contributions could go to starsegypt.org or the other website.
Contributions can go to refugeesthrive.org.
Who runs Refugees?
This is a nonprofit organization that I think supports and manages donations from around the world for several nonprofits. So if you go to refugeesthrive.org, right away, you will go to the STARS page.
So you can go to their page
Yeah.
on that.
And you can pay by check or credit card or PayPal or whatever way is easy for you to pay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mary.
Thank you for giving us this information. We are a supporter of Pastor Becca, St. Mark's.
Yes.
Has taken Pastor Becca as our missionary. So we send thousands of dollars to the ELCA to support her work. This is great.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, how could we help St. Andrews?
Yeah, so Mary is just saying that right in our St. Mark's budget, we support Pastor Becca, and we can continue to do that. But this supports STARS as well. I know you'd rather see pictures of camels, right? It's a big deal. I mean, when I came back from Cairo, it was such an intense time, both just fighting traffic and getting used to the dirty air and all of that and the noise, constant noise. But I think I slept probably 3 days straight. But it was an incredible journey, and I can't wait to go back. So I don't know when, sometime in 2026, I'll be back. Mary.
I've heard that the ELCA's Amparo program, that's the program that we think of with Central America and South America. It's accompanying migrant minors with protection, advocacy, resources, and opportunities from PARL. I understand that they're now working with STARS.
That's what I've heard, but I haven't heard
Is
it
there any-
directly from Becca, so.
Is there, what does that look like? Usually what that means is that they've got people on the ground who are helping us accompany the work that's being done there.
Yeah.
I wondered if there was any sense of how that was, what that looked like.
I don't know.
It sounds like there are lots of children, so.
There are a lot of children and young children. What I consider to be junior high and high school age children. The thing of it is, if you're an unregistered person, you have no access to education in Egypt. So this private school is wonderful for them. And, you know, and it's tough. So the teachers, when Jim and I walked in, said, okay, and Becca's mother, Joyce, she said, okay, put them to the test, see how much they know in English. And so, you know, it was a wonderful opportunity for them to practice their English a little bit. And the older ones are on computer labs. I mean, they're becoming tech savvy. They've got a better education, maybe in some of the basics than I had when I was a kid. So I think they're going to be fine.
This is great information, and it's wonderful to reach out for individual contributions to make up for the budget shortfall, but have you heard about organizational level responses to make up for this loss of funding from US contributions, or is it still too early?
Right, so part of it is just situations like this where people are telling the story in the United States and saying, please help. And I know that St. Andrew's Church and the governing board of STARS are aggressively looking for funding anywhere in the world. And so the European churches are responding rather well. Just like also the European churches are very generous to our ministry in El Salvador. You know, so they're doing fine. We just need to, you know, continue to get the word out, what is needed. And to be honest with you, I don't know exactly how much of this 40% has been made up yet. But I just know that it's looming over them every day. More and more people are coming to them for assistance, and there's less and less in the pot to pay the salaries and provide the services. So much of what they provide is food. So, and you know, it's not unusual. I did ask this of Becca when I was there. How do people who have no, if they have no documentation and you can't really work except like people do here under the table, how do you manage to pay rent? And she said, well, you know, it's kind of like what you would expect reading in a thriller novel or something, but you might have 18 people who are living in one apartment and they literally shift sleep. So if you work nights, then you sleep during the day. If you work during the day, you sleep at night, and you just have 18 people putting the cash that they can make on the streets into the rent and into the food budget. So the poverty there is amazing. On the other hand, Egyptian people are incredibly friendly and hospitable. So you've got both sides. Yeah, Omar.
Yes, just to cover your prior comments on the donating and the education program. The endowment committee granted $2,400 a couple of years ago. We all did.
Yeah.
And that was for the medical and the education programs.
I believe, yeah, that's right, so,
Hopefully it went a long ways, but that was also about the time Becca showed up too.
yeah.
So it was wonderful, but that was my first knowledge of stars. And programs. Anyhow, we were glad to do it, and I think we all.
Yeah, well, I think it doesn't hurt to know somebody who's there, so, and so we can, there are ways to contact Becca too periodically. I do on WhatsApp, which is something I never thought I'd be using, but you know, you learn, right? So. Yeah. Well, thanks for your interest in St. Andrew's Church and Stars and Cairo and our trip there, which really is, like Pam said, educational. I don't even know, there's got to be a better word, but it was just mind-blowing. I mean, it was just incredible. I can't wait to go back, and maybe someday you'll get to go and see for yourself what is happening at St. Andrew's and its Stars.
And I want to say thank you for my unexpected surprise for my aunt and uncle for coming. Just in this. Thank you, Uncle Johnny, for me. And thank you to everyone for attending the. Thank you.